All right, so we've got the new intros out of the way. Does anybody have any announcements for today? Okay, I hear none. We do have to approve the prior meeting minutes, however. So this is the minutes from the last meeting, which was on January 9th. And Samina just shared the Google Doc for the that we take notes in if you want to help with that today. I do believe Alyssa is not here, so any help on note taking would be
No,
greatly
I'm here.
Yes.
Oh, you are. Thanks.
Yep,
Hi,
yep,
Alyssa.
yep. Hi there.
Okay.
Sorry, I was a little late, but yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So let me just kind of run through these. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at these minutes. Any objections with what is written?
No objection.
Okay. All right, very good. Let's continue on then. We can.
If I can just make a short comment,
Yeah.
Steve, it would be great if you could ensure that Pietro, as he's just joining, knows the link to where he may look at the agenda and the meeting notes once we're done, and that he also has the regular invitation for the meetings, please.
Yes. Piotr, are you in the Ecma TC54 private channel or no? I'll add you regardless. I just posted the link to the meeting. We have a dedicated repo specifically for the meetings themselves, and broken down by year. We include the agenda as well as the prior minutes as well, so that way you can kind of follow along.
For the repo, I have it open.
Okay, well, fantastic. I don't have any promotions today. I am hopeful. I know we talked about this previously, but I am hopeful that I will have I will have the patents potentially ready by this time next month. So by the next time we meet, the patent support should be 95% baked in at that point. And I think it would be good for the group to kind of review that.
Sorry, patents for what?
Yeah, I was about to ask.
Yeah.
We've had a number of requests to include patent information in the specification. So we've been working really hard with a couple of those stakeholders, as well as WIPO, which is the standards organization that specializes in patent, and specifically their ST96 specification, the leads for that. But we've been working really hard on including patent information. Again, all this is optional inside the CycloneDX specification. There's a number of use cases for this.
Okay, good. I was
Yeah.
scared for a second that you would be looking for patents to apply patents on CycloneDX. So.
Oh, no. I'm glad we clarified that.
Yeah. Just for I'm sure I'm not the only one that was thinking about that for a sec.
Yeah. So I don't have any promotions today, but by this time next month, we should be in a good state that we can start reviewing the patent support in CycloneDX.
By the way, one thing, if you have contacts with folks at WIPO, if there's anybody that could be a volunteer to make sure there's no patents, that would obviously read on what we're doing in Cyclone and this committee, that would be awesome.
Yeah, we've discussed that with them already. So yeah, there are none, but that was one of the first things that we did check. Yeah.
Good.
Cool. Threat modeling is continuing slowly. It is the table of contributors. It keeps growing, which is fantastic. The challenge, I think, is being able to come to a minimal viable part of the spec that can grow as more and more threat modeling capabilities are added in future releases in a way that is useful, is automatable by the tools, and that captures all the different types of methodologies that people use when performing threat models. We're also taking the approach that some of the data that you would typically include in a threat model should also be able to reside independently of having a threat model. For example, there might be cases where use cases, which are typically captured when you perform a threat model, those are useful as is, especially for the consumers of SBOMs, right? So that you actually know what something does. So there's other examples of this too. So, but the complexity is just trying to figure out a way to represent all this type of data in a way that's going to satisfy all the different stakeholders and be extensible at the same time. So it's been pretty challenging. The work on blueprints is progressing. Right now, we are really focused on behaviors, specifically more dangerous type of behaviors, because it's the behaviors that we need to apply to the components, services, and data flows that we're representing in the specification. That work is progressing a little bit faster, I think, than the threat modeling. But for the threat modeling, we do anticipate to have some kind of POC in the next 2 weeks or so. So if you want to get involved with that, let me know. Sustainability. I still don't know if this is going to be part of CycloneDX or if it will eventually turn into its own specification. It's not clear at this point. We have been consulting and working with the Chaos folks. We have been making progress on the Google Doc. If you want to see the Google Doc that Salva has been leading the development of, let him or I know. But at this point, I honestly don't know if this information is right to go in CycloneDX or if this is going to turn into maybe a separate task group that would work on finalizing a separate specification for this. It's unclear.
Who in Chaos have you been working with?
What's up?
Who in Chaos? Out of
That's a
curiosity.
good question. You'd have to reach out to Salva to find out. I know he's been talking to a few folks, and we have been using some of their existing documentation as reference, as kind of a starting point. We have found some of it's well thought out. Some of it we found to be incomplete. So we are expanding upon that in some cases. And we've invited in some other folks that have specialties in various areas. One of the last folks that we invited in on the call, and again, these calls are recorded and posted on YouTube. But one of the last calls, we invited a person, can't remember the name of the company he works for, but they specialize in mental health. And a lot of the sustainability concerns, especially with maintainers and whatnot, and the mental health concerns that can arise, and how to represent certain types of sustainability information that could lead to positive mental health, for example. So we're trying to invite as many experts as we possibly can so that we can capture everybody's perspective. So if you want to get involved in that, let myself or Salva know. The patents, I don't think I need to go any more into that. That work is doing really well. We probably will have, I don't want to say a review, but we will be providing, we will be asking our contact at WIPO for what would you call, for like just kind of a review of what it is that we have, our understanding of how their standards work, just to kind of make sure that we believe we're on the right track. So we'll probably have a lightweight review from them before we review it here in this TC. With that, if there are no questions, I think we can do the updates from the task groups. And is Ole Johansson on today? I don't see it.
He's not here.
Okay. I don't really have an update. This work is progressing. I do know that. Like with everything, FOSDEM kind of there was a lot of preparation. A lot of our folks that attend these calls were at FOSDEM, so there was a lot of preparation that they had to do. So I don't think a lot has happened over the last month. But with that, I'll pass it off to Philippe to run down where we're at with TG2.
You guys hear me all right? Yes, you should. I think working fine. Okay. So quick update on TG2. So first, going back from FOSDEM, the interesting thing is that whether it was in discussion on funding or SBOM, generally speaking, there was a lot of pearls and a lot of CycloneDX everywhere, which was always interesting. You know, when you see one flashing on a slide deck during a presentation. So, great thing. When it comes to the work specifically on the spec, we've had again a community meeting yesterday and 2 weeks ago. We had to skip a bit on the regular meeting because of FOSDEM and the fact that I was co-hosting a workshop on license and security compliance that day, last Friday. So we're doing slow but steady progress. A lot of the work we're doing is actually removing a lot of words in the spec. And that's, as always, surprisingly more difficult than adding more, to make sure we have something that's brief, crisper, and simpler. We received great help also from Martin Perpich from Red Hat, working on product security at Red Hat, and very helpful there. And that's pretty much it. So right now, I'd say for the core spec, we're still on track for Q1. But I like to say that I'm always an optimist. So we're trying to make sure we're staying as focused as possible on that goal. In terms of triaging, for instance, issues and PRs, it feels like it's a bit like a leaky bucket in the sense that we remove some from the bottom, but there's more that are pouring in at the top. So for now, we're not out of the wood in terms of bringing down the number of issues and PRs. Still lots of work, but we're doing steady progress at least.
Question for you: all the changes, the simplification of the wording, that's all going into the restructured text, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
When do you think I can have a draft copy of that so I can start putting that into EC markup?
To do that, to test for something that's automated, you can do it at any time. To have something that is close to ready or starts to have something that resembles the final, I don't think we'll get anything before the end of the month, February, and probably more early March. Yeah, it's just that we're trying to, at the same time, both streamline the specs so there's as few explicit words as possible, and at the same time, keep commentaries in a new FAQ document, so we don't lose interesting commentaries which are useful for implementers and adopters, but are not core to the spec, but they're the questions that everybody asks, essentially.
Yeah.
So-
Samina, question for you. If we were to try to get this voted on the mid-year GA, when is the latest that we can get this to the Exacom? That's sometime in March,
Yes.
correct?
The Exacom is very early this year. It's March 5, 6, usually 3 weeks before that. So it's very tight if you can get a document to us in the next 2 weeks.
Oh,
No,
wow.
that's not possible.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm sorry. I wish, but not at the pace we're doing and not with the work that's left to do there.
Okay. It is really early this year. Okay. So that means we'll have to wait. We can either do an out of band or wait until the December, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I really wish it would be possible, but that's
We will handle it pragmatically. You work on it as best pace as you see fit, and also having the quality document, and then we'll take the next steps.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. Any questions for Philippe?
Just, Steve, sorry, this is Samina. Just question, Philippe, regarding the document, you are, do you have the format? Are you working with Aki's tools to ensure that you have the right formatting as we need, just from a document structure? Thank you.
That's what Steve is doing. I've not touched it yet, and I will. I tend to naively believe that it's just going to be an easy affair. I'm sure it will not, but at least it's a essentially mechanical affair at some level.
I think
you have,
for Pearl
for
is,
now.
yeah, for Pearl is short enough that it's not going to be that big of a deal, I don't think.
It's going to
Aki,
be even
I did-
shorter.
Exactly. You know, it's the I am waiting for I did talk to Aki last week, I believe it was, and she does have a PR open over on TC39. That PR includes the finalized styles necessary to generate the Ecma formatted PDF using prints. So as soon as that PR is merged, we will be able to generate our official Ecma PDF of Perl and all the other specifications as well. But she does know that that is a blocking issue for us. But it's, you know, I don't need it like today, right? We're still working on the specifications. So we have a little time.
I'll follow that through with her. Thank you.
Okay. We have Jordan here today. Jordan, would you like to provide an update on TG3?
Sure. So we have merged a PR that contains a goals and constraints document. So the intention was to define a bunch of musts and shoulds to guide, to be like guiding principles for the specification itself. The hope is that anytime someone asks why we did a thing, we can point them at this document and they will be able to infer for themselves why we did that thing, you know, as much as possible. We also, one of our contributors has opened a PR with an initial attempt at a specification. That was just yesterday, so I have not looked at it at all yet, but presumably we will be iterating on that asynchronously and in our meetings. And when we come to various points of agreement, we'll start merging things. I think we're hoping to have, it would be really nice to have a draft specification by the June GA, but if not, then I think we may be able to get one by the December GA.
Got it.
That's where we're at.
Yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to review that PR that was yesterday, you said, right?
Yeah, it just went up yesterday. It's number 3. Number 2 was the constraint stock, which was merged.
Right.
Yeah, I am sure we'll have quite a lot of discussion over many weeks before it's even close to merging. So there's no rush, but all feedback is welcome. And the sooner we receive it, the sooner we can incorporate it. And then we continue to meet. We've only had 2 meetings, I think, so far, but we've got periodic meetings on the calendar, and we'll continue to do so. So everyone's welcome
Yeah, I
to
think
join.
it's every 2 weeks, right? Every 2 weeks or so.
Sounds right.
Does everybody have the links for the TG meetings if you want to attend?
And I'm not sure I have them.
Let me post it in the chat here. We use the OWASP. There's a software supply chain community calendar, and the TC54, which we're in now. All the Ecma groups are posted in here, as well as all the OWASP community groups that deal with software supply chain are in this calendar as well. I did give Aki the link to this calendar. I believe she was going to add the TC54 meeting to the Ecma website soon as well. So that will be posted. I do not believe the TGs will be posted on the Ecma website though. But the each TG, like Jordan's we're actually meeting later today, it looks like, Jordan. Description of what it is, kind of what's required. Yeah, and there is a link to the actual meeting itself. So like this meeting, we do record them. And for the most part, the TGs also keep notes of their meetings as well. So I posted a link to this community calendar in the chat.
All the TC54 meetings are posted on the Ecma website. The TGs are not, but if it's required, we can also do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's required. The TG meetings, we do have the link to the actual meeting URL for the TGs. We do not do that for the TC, but for the TG meetings, we do publish the link, and it is the convener's responsibility to ensure that invited experts, observers, etc. We document that and get approvals.
Steve, I don't know if you mentioned this one before I joined, but could you talk briefly about how we met with the clearly defined group to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just for reference for people, I sit on the outreach committee for Clearly Defined, and they were talking about building collaborations across the space, including with SPDX. And I was like, oh, why are we not also speaking with like the CycloneDX community? And so we just set up a kind of an introductory call to understand like where we might be able to work together. And I've started a private channel on the OWASP Slack organization called Clearly Defined Collaboration, where we're kind of exchanging links back and forth. But would love to hear, Steve, like your kind of feedback from that type of meeting, and anybody else's like, questions or interests. Just sort of hoping to be a bridge between the two spaces, and maybe there was further learnings or conversations at FOSDEM that could be relevant here too.
No, I think that was great. Thank you for the introduction to Clearly Defined. I thought it was, like you said, I thought it was a really great conversation. I thought it went great. So Clearly Defined, for those that may not know, really focuses on clearly defining licenses, right? and obligations and all that sort of thing. So, they do have an API that you can reach out to and get a lot of the license information for various libraries and that sort of thing. I think there's some, and because CycloneDX utilizes SPDX license identifiers and license expressions, there's kind of a natural fit to collaborate closely with clearly defined. When they say like SPDX, it's just kind of roll back a little bit. SPDX is actually three entirely different things. It is a authoritative list of license identifiers. It is a license expression language, and it is a file format. And you don't necessarily have to support all three to say you support SPDX. But for license specifically, they rely primarily on SPDX license IDs and expressions, not the file format, just for clarification. But I think it went really well. I think there's some collaboration possibilities, possibly with CycloneDX, regarding licensing. I do for more of a wider kind of impact. I do believe that there's opportunities to integrate clearly defined with other OWASP projects, such as dependency track, for example, which is essentially the reference implementation for how you consume and analyze bills of materials, including CycloneDX. So there's some potential for some fairly large adoption of clearly defined through the adoption of that API through various OWASP projects. It's a little less clear how we could kind of work with them from the CycloneDX perspective. Again, because everything kind of relies for the most part on SPDX license identifiers and license expressions, which we already support, and which is primarily maintained by the SPDX community. However, I do think there is certainly an opportunity when it comes to the Transparency Exchange API, T, to possibly provide some integration there as well. So with that, I think it went really well. I think we are still in discovery phase right now of figuring out, how we could potentially collaborate. There's a lot of ideas I think that both camps have in terms of how we could do certain things. And if anyone is interested in collaborating with them, let Alyssa or I know. Again, we do have that channel up on the CycloneDX Slack where we're just kind of getting started with some of these discussions. But yeah, I thank you, Alyssa, for bringing the two camps together. I thought it was great.
Yeah, and just for your information, I'm one of the original co-founders of Clearly Defined. I actually give the project its name, and they make extensive use of scan code there also.
Yep.
Great.
You're just all over the place, Philippe.
No. Just I'm good at giving names. That's the only thing I'm good at. I gave the name actually to SPDX also
You
together
did?
with Michael. Yes.
Do you think it would be useful to so they have a monthly like community meeting and I don't know if this meeting is open for others to attend, but would it be useful to continue to be in awareness and conversation with each other, even if as we kind of figure out a space for collaboration? Like I can share, I guess what I'm saying is like I can share the information about the monthly clearly defined meeting, and if the people would like to, attend and learn more.
Makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah, that we can actually add that to future agendas, Alyssa, if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm always the best one to share current progress, but I think it would be
Yeah.
but I will try.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it's for those, I mean, Philippe, maybe this even speaks to if you were started clearly defined. I think it's a very nice community, and
Yeah, if you take a
authentic
few.
and yeah, authentic in their efforts to collaborate in this space.
No, definitely, no question. I need to go, so have a great day. Sorry for that.
All right. Thanks, Philippe. Yeah. Let's do they publish their notes? Do you know? So if somebody is not able to attend, can we at least see kind of what's going on?
Yeah, so Nick, who's coming from OSI, he's a community manager at OSI, the hosting like organization behind Clearly Defined. He put together a slide deck each month, and I think he posts that. So let me sync with him
Okay.
to get that information too.
Okay.
Oh, I actually have a new conflict for this meeting, so there was a meeting this past week. That I missed, but I will, we're trying to reschedule for a better time.
Okay. Okay.
I also put this question, Jordan, do you feel like we captured your question here or answered your question?
Yeah, I think you did. I was just curious. So like in the NPM ecosystem, it's all SPDX identifiers and expressions. Like it's generally considered that that is the source of truth for what a package's license is. But I understand there are probably more license related details than that covers, and there's many other ecosystems to cover. So it sounds like yeah, that makes sense to me. I was just trying to understand it. Thank you.
One of the things that I really liked about Clearly Defined, and I think it kind of touches on a question from Jordan in the chat, is because their API under the covers on the back end uses scan code. Not only do you get the declared licenses for a given library, but you get the observed licenses as well. So, and in a lot of cases, they're going to match up. But in some cases, right, what you observe and what was declared will in fact be different. So that is potentially really useful, especially for, when you're dealing with SBOM generators that only rely on like package manifest type data, right? And don't really do any kind of in-depth analysis. So that data is there, as well as all the copyrights. And again, it's the evidence of all the different copyrights as well. So not just the declared copyright on the component itself, but what are the copyright statements in all the individual files that scan code has analyzed, for example. So I think the data is really useful. And of course, for the licenses, again, everything is SPDX license IDs and expressions. So, and then the copyrights are just the clear text of the copyrights.
Yeah, I mean, if you just go to the website of Clearly Defined, click on any of their research results, you will find out, for example, that there is this one package declaring to be MIT licensed, and then Clearly Defined tells you on we did the research, we looked into the files, we found out, well, some of them have license header, some of the files in there actually have license headers from other licenses in there. So, well, yeah, they declare to be MIT, but I can already tell they are not. They just claim to be, and then it usually comes to making a decision whether it's actually MIT. Can I actually use it? Did they wrong? Are they responsible for the license and stuff? And most importantly, as far as I understand, there are actually tools feeding the data into Clearly Defined, and these findings can be automated. They can be human reviewed. And I've actually talked to a lawyer who made it the profession that everything they get funded to review, they actually publish the data on clearly defined and tell their finding. And so then you have not just only declared and discovered or observed licenses, but you actually get the concluded license results from somebody who analyzes licenses as a profession. So I think this is the huge benefit of all of that undertaking at all.
No, thank you for that. I didn't realize that they actually had the concluded licenses in there. That's really interesting.
They have it somewhere as far as understood, but it's
In
probably
some
not that
places.
prominent.
Right. As you can tell, you know, the integration with CycloneDX, I don't know what that looks like yet. But also, you can probably kind of envision how this could be useful for SBOM consumption tools, such as OWASP dependency track, as well as the APIs like the Transparency Exchange API that we're developing. So I think there's some opportunities there. We just kind of, again, we're still in the discovery phase. We need to figure out, you know, what does collaboration look like? What can we potentially do realistically? One question I did ask, clearly defined. We've had challenges, for example, with the National Vulnerability Database. You know, between the OWASP dependency check tool and, of course, OWASP dependency track, we have on multiple occasions taken down the NVD just with these tools. And that is just a reflection on the amount of organizations that use these tools and the in the case of the National Vulnerability Database, the lack of funding to ensure that they actually have a scalable infrastructure to account for the massive amounts of traffic we can potentially send their way. So I honestly did not want to, you know, wreak havoc on clearly defined, because I'm sure we could potentially do that to them as well, that's not what we want to do. So I asked the question in terms of, you know, throttling and that sort of thing. And there was a lady from, and I apologize, I can't remember all the names offhand, but she was from GitHub, and she did say that they actually download all the clearly defined data on a fairly regular basis, like daily or something like that. That way they can use that data locally rather than flooding the clearly defined API. Because obviously GitHub would definitely be able to take it down, right? So that's also another point of discovery, right? It's not just about the API. It's not just about that. It's also figuring out how we can potentially just leverage the raw data in possibly some of the things that we're working on as well. So yeah, I think you know, if you're interested in collaboration with us and them, Alyssa, I think, posted the link to the Slack channel. So
Yeah,
I'd
I don't,
encourage you to
and
join.
yeah, can you join a private channel? I'm not sure, but ping us if there's a problem if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the sustainability side, I just wanted to get on everybody's radar. You probably know already this ecosystems fund, and kind of curious if there's any feedback on that too. This is about Ben Nichols, who originally did libraries.io, which was what the foundation of TyLift was. And it does like a dependency tree to kind of equitably distribute funds to an ecosystem. And, you know, it's a project in like still being built in some respects, but kind of curious if there's any feedback or just, you know, useful to be aware, I think, of the work from a sustainability point of view. So if
Is this
Salvador isn't
different
familiar with
than
it,
like Tidelift or Thanks.dev? in the
Yeah,
sense
like
that they're
thanks.dev uses something like this in order to distribute funds. So
Mhm.
I think they are like kind of a potential partner. This is TideLift uses libraries.io, which was a precursor to this,
Mhm.
to figure out their kind of distribution of funds as well.
Okay, but it's a similar model. It's just two different sources of the
Yeah,
graph. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, my general understanding. Yeah, and there was a really good, yeah, there was also a presentation about this at FOSDEM too. Oh,
Yeah.
We tried thanks.dev and looked at others like TideLift, but found them all severely lacking.
yeah,
Like the metrics on like usage, like passed from your dependencies, at least for us, were basically useless. So it was it was almost entirely useless because dependencies, it's really hard for like some tool to really assess how important a dependency is, and just by the amount of usages or lines of code or whatever, it's really hard to figure out. Like in the node ecosystem, there's tools like isEven. And yeah, sure, that pops up everywhere in the dependency chain, but it's also really, really easy to replace with something else. While, for example, our Kubernetes client in our chain only appears in one place, and we have a wrapper around it, so we only call it in one method. But if that goes away, we are fucked. So we found all these things
lacking.
yeah, totally. Unfortunately, this is not a criticism to this particular thing. It's a hard problem, but yeah.
Yeah, I think this is I would be intrigued to see what your feedback is on this one in particular. I think it's an evolution of a lot of this work.
I'll take a look.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
and I think it's an interesting, again, specifically for the sustainability working group, I think it's an interesting concept to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks. I'll take a closer look at this as well. I did post the link to the Google Doc that we've been operating out of for sustainability. You know, monetary funds is just one aspect of what we're doing, but there is a lot more to the sustainability specification that we are trying to come up with. Again, I don't know if this is going to end up in CycloneDX or it will be its own uh, specification. It is not clear yet, but we've spent a lot of time, and we started with the chaos list of things here. All the items in bold come originally from chaos. But as you can see, we've spent a lot of time going through the individual categories of types of assistance that maintainers often look for. This will most likely be an extensible enumeration when we're done with it. But there's been a lot of work just on the taxonomy so far.
Mhm.
So, and all of these things lead to, sustainable open source, because depending on the project, right, you might have needs for all of these different types of things. And of course, if you have financial contributions, well, you might be able to pay to get some of these things, but these are the things themselves,
Mhm.
is kind of what we focused on. We've also spent a lot of time on some of the use cases. For example, just making sure that we can declare, for example, that, the intent of a repository, such as, well, this repo hasn't been touched. However, I still, if a security incident comes in, I'm still going to support that. Or if I'm looking for a new maintainer, or all kinds of other types of reasons as well. So take a look at it if you're into sustainability. Again, the link is in the chat. And we meet in terms of the oh, it looks like we're meeting again today, right before the TG3 call. So if you do have time, please join us. We are looking for more contributors. Looks like we meet every 2 weeks, so feel free to put that on your calendar. So with that, did anybody have any other new business that they wanted to bring up?
I have just some smaller bits regarding the standards and upcoming features. I mean, the big parts are clear. This will be blueprint, sustainability, and other things you've already heard of. Since let's go. It started all more than a year ago, when BSI asked for their own flavor of S-bomb and they had some ideas about features they're planning on having. And BSI actually got a revision number, version 2 of their standard and ideas published last year, which caused us to finally understand what they're up to. And this showed us some feature lags we need to challenge and to face. One of them is the license the ability to express licenses in CycloneDX. They actually have no idea how SPDX does it, and they don't care, but they're eager to work with us to get the things done. These are the tickets that are currently in the spec related to that, and one of them is actually done. The implementation and the spec is written, and it's not yet 4 weeks in draft, but as far as I understand, we will have a period of 4 weeks having it in draft and later have it promoted and all those things. So I just wanted to let you know that there are things coming up as soon as they are reviewed, finally promoted, and then they will be heard here. And another undertaking is related to another thing the BSI asked for. It's basically the thing I call extraneous components, which would be components that you're not actually shipping with your product, but you want to express in your SBOM that your package actually has a runtime dependency on them, and the component is to be provided by somebody who actually uses your product. This is a feature we also worked on for like over a year, and we finally came to in the community came to an idea what they actually want and how they could use it and what it's actually for and everything. So I started working on that this week and plan on finishing it next week, which means from then on we will have the another 4 weeks period, and after that we will have it like early March probably. So yeah, just to let you know.
So I believe, Jan, you have rights to this repo. Let me know if you don't. But if you want to just add those promotion reviews to the agendas, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I thought like they should probably be announced in the mailing list and everywhere to gather
they do.
the all the feedback, and after that the 4 weeks period starts, and after that, yeah, probably they will be promoted. Yep.
Yep. Okay, great. Just for clarification, because I honestly have the extraneous components ticket is quite large, and there's a lot of side conversations happening. So for my own clarification, will that support? Well, I do know that it supports, for example, well, this application requires Java 17. Will it also handle cases like this application requires Windows 7 or higher, or Linux kernel such and such or higher?
Exactly, that's one of our use cases.
Okay.
If you look into the ticket, it's usually not worth reading all the discussions. Just look at the top, find the use cases. Is a list of 8 things, and one of them is the runtime dependency, which was one of the most important and most requested one, to express that your product runs only on the latest Mac architecture or some very old Spark architecture nobody actually has, but Yeah, so the runtime is one of our goals to be identified. So for example, you would just tell one of my runtime dependencies, yet another component is a Windows on ARM, and it's extraneous, which means it needs to be provided by the downstream user of the thing that you provide, your product. And then you could express which versions of that thing you would support, like in a version range, not just one version. And we actually discussed that you could pin that version down if you need to. So to say to a patch level or something like that. Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. There, just for everyone's information, there has been a few discussions back in the NTIA days, as well as a few discussions in CISA SBOM communities on runtime requirements and how to represent that. And like a lot of things in these government SBOM groups, um, the hard things are usually kicked down the road, and runtime dependencies was certainly one of the hard things. To my knowledge, there is no Tiger team on CISA that is working on this, to my knowledge. But having this in the specification is really, really important. So I'm going to really look forward to reviewing this, Jan. Thank you for working on this. This is going to be amazing.
Steve, there's a hand up. It's Matt.
Oh, sorry. Didn't see it. Matt?
Yeah, so I know that within the last few weeks that you talked about this this need for requirements capabilities, and I think I pointed you to a modeling approach from another standard to take a look at. I didn't know any practical work was going on by Jan, but I can never track all the things that Jan does. Yeah, so he's amazing as always. I think I expressed at the time two thoughts that I wanted to get out here, and for the record, for Jan to hear as well, because I don't know if he was on the call when we talked about this, which is, first of all, we already have a means to express the captured runtime topology for how a component was built in the MBOM. So I wanted to make sure whatever we did, what might be compatible with that, because I think that I expressed before a much larger topic about bills of materials being, principally now a snapshot of a component, static component after it was built. What's inside of it, all the things about it, all this and that. But now we're getting into the realm of requirements, like before how to run it afterwards, and maybe even requirements how to build what we need to build it. So we need to figure out how we align and describe these different bomb types through a life cycle, so that you can compare what happens. You can say, I have a bomb that says, here's how I build the bomb. Here's how I build the bomb. Here's what we have today, how we capture the bomb, the M bomb. And then we can compare that. Do we adhere to the requirements for the build? And then after the fact, here are the requirements to run it. And, there has to be some, semblance of continuity between the objects and fields and things like that. Right.
Let me just respond to that. You were referring to MBOM. I did not have it on the table yet, but I'll just link a thing that I know I need to write. It's about OBOM, SBOM, VDR, and VEX to describe that this feature that I just described, that we are actually proposing as being able to capture it in the CycloneDX standard should not be used in, for example, OBOM. Doesn't even make sense when you are describing the whole system. There's an extraneous system. Like the same for manufacturing bombs. You're completely right. I totally forgot that. You must not describe, like an M bomb is basically an O bomb of a build system. So you must not have extraneous or vague dependencies in that process. Doesn't make sense. So thanks for bringing that up, Matt.
Yeah, well, we can talk further, obviously, in an appropriate work group call. But again, we're getting into this, like the full life cycle, and not just bombs for a specific, category. And it looks like I imagine we're going to mix a metaphor in the current S bomb to basically not just say what's statically in these components, but like it's more like deployment requirements, which is kind of like goes beyond, you know, the scope of what we imagine SBOM to be. Yeah.
Pietro, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, for the runtime requirements, I think there is also something that should be done in the Perl working group. For example, I don't know how can you specify that we require GRE70 or up, because I don't know what Perl to use for that.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is that we already discussed for that things you wouldn't use a Perl web version or just drop the Perl because you can't have that. You can't pin the one version if you are using a range. But I mean, for example, there are cases where you can, because you might rely on a specific version of something as an extraneous dependency. For example, libcurl in version 1.8.11, which is the one from last week. And you didn't for reasons, and then you could probably use a Perl, but this is still an option. There's no need to use a range, but you could. So yeah, but you're right. Actually, had a discussion about that today.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, it's a follow-on thought, and I'll stop there. Is that, you know, again, it's a slippery slope. Once you start specifying adding requirements, because then you're going to get into requirements in other areas. What are my license requirements? What are my policies? What are my environmental requirements? It goes on and on. So basically, every thing that's expressed in the current SBOM could become a requirement. You know, so just want to point that out.
Yeah, you're right. And actually, we do have that already. We have the SBOM phase planning, as far as I know, which is well in the planning bomb. And at that point, we already have the idea of having a version range because it's not clear yet. And then we have the SBOM phase of how do we call it?
You got me. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a planning bomb. So you got me.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way last year. This is why it took us over a year to finally pin down that feature. And I'm not shy to say if we say it's not clear yet, we cannot have it. I'm okay with that. Then it goes yet another year. That's how it goes. So yeah.
I just a quick time check. We are at time. This was an amazing discussion today. I would love to have more of these instead of just status updates on the TC. So this is great. Thank you. I've got some follow up to do, so I will post what I had promised when that's available. And Jan, if you want to update the agendas with any kind of reviews that are coming up, that would be great. With that, I wish everyone a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
Thank you.